Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's Crush It in Sales podcast. I am so fired up this morning, and I think it has a lot to do with starting the 6-week group coaching program, Beyond Basic Sales Strategy and Success, lots of S's there, program tomorrow night, Tuesday, 11:30, November 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And oh my goodness, I'm just ready to just get going. And I really wanted to get going now on a specific date, November 30th, because why not? Why are people waiting? Why are people sitting in their uncomfortable pain and not moving forward and not recognizing what they could be doing better, what their lessons have been, what their hindsights have been, and what their dreams and goals are? Like, get going. Why wait? And that is what I wanted to talk to about this week, was understanding your hits and misses from 2021. And if you want to do a deep dive even into 2020 or other years, by all means do that. Because what goes on out there is just crazy. People keep operating on autopilot in their lives, busy, and they're not really making progress or moving forward. Or they just keep hiring different coaches or programs and different things. And I'm going to be really transparent in this podcast about a lot of stuff. So I hope you have your seatbelt fastened. But that's one of them. You know, people, including myself, have made a lot of mistakes out there, getting sucked into fancy marketing or other aspects that they're like, oh, I'm going to try this or do that and try this time and try this time. And then before you know it, thousands of dollars out the window, your time, your energy, frustration level, and nothing's really happened, right? So this 6-week program that I have put together is all encompassing. And if you follow me already, you know I share all sorts of things. I talk about energetics. I talk about spirituality. I talk about tactical things. I talk about social media. And I share the journey. And because I also have made all those mistakes and spent thousands of dollars on coaching the past several years, that, I kind of take all the best and then learn from all the worst, right? So you learn from good things, but often you learn from bad things too. And everyone likes to soften that. Oh, it's lessons. Yeah, it is lessons for sure. But sometimes it's okay to be human and call a spade and say, yeah, it was a mistake. Or yeah, I really screwed up on that one. And that's what I want people to do with this episode, is really take some time. If you're listening in the car, after you listen to this podcast, just turn off all the noise. It's really important to have quiet time, to have silence in your life, and turn off the noise so your brain can think and your subconscious can come through. Because when you keep on filtering all this noise through you, you never let all the other things come through. You never let your higher self come through, and you never really do the work. And Gene Keys calls it contemplation. I call it mind loops. Like, let the mind loops go crazy, right? And sometimes you have to just set them free. Let them do their thing so you can come to an understanding and a resolution and a reckoning of your own and understand how you feel and then be able to move forward. And these are all principles I coach and teach on in my own way, because I've had to figure this out by myself. Because I've made a lot of hiring mistakes and have had a lot of lessons. So I've had to do a lot of figuring this out myself. So one of the episodes I really want to make sure you've listened to is actually in the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. And it's episode 165, What Makes You Awesome. And that's just a really good starting place. So you feel good about yourself and you come to terms with who you are and what makes you special and unique. And it's something that, if you're struggling with what should I do with my life, where should I go, who should I be, what type of job should I have, having that mindset around what makes you awesome is also a really good place to start. What makes you great? Like, do you love cooking? Do you love working with people? Are you a good listener? You can take it to all sorts of levels, just not even just the tactical, like cooking to me is more tactical, but being a good listener, would make you a really good coach, for example, right? So just understanding, your soft skills and your hard skills and putting that together as far as, what really makes you happy, what lights you up, what makes you awesome. So take a listen to that podcast. And then this podcast then is kind of in conjunction, and it's talking about the hits and the misses. And if you are in my private Facebook group, Beyond Basic, and I'll put a link in the show notes, I actually cover all of this as well in a free workshop that I had on November 23rd. So you can also take part and listen to the recording of that free workshop, and you'll be able to go through these exercises as well, because these exercises are really important. And again, this is where people, are just so busy, they're on autopilot, and they're not taking that time. And it's actually self-care. This is self-care at its finest, to think about themselves, what they've accomplished, what's considered a hit, what's considered a miss, and how can you learn and grow from those things and move forward. So I'm going to just do a rattle off the top of my head of some of my hits and misses for 2021, because I do believe there are lessons in there for other people too, and things to think about. So you may not have the exact same experience as me. And if my experience wasn't good, I certainly hope you didn't. But you'll at least understand some perspective. And I also believe that often we beat ourselves up by some of the mistakes that we made, right? Some of the, oh God, I wish I knew better, or I wish I didn't do that, or I wish I wouldn't have bought that. And often, you hate the saying misery loves company, but there is some type of feeling associated with that, where you end up hearing something, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not alone. I'm glad it's not just me. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Oh, I thought I was crazy. All those thoughts we all have. So sometimes just hearing that, oh my gosh, someone else made a boo-boo like that, right? And learned from it, that can help you too. Because believe me, with all that's going on out there, I know I'm not alone. And I am so grateful for the conversations I've had, especially of late, with some of my fellow coaches, where we've even had conversations about things we've bought, like we both bought, and been like, yep, same thing. Oh, glad it's not just me, right? So those things really help you, because it settles down the mind loop. It settles down this feeling that you royally screwed up. Okay, you're not alone. Move on, learn from it, don't do it again. But when you don't have those discussions with people, and you live in this la-la land that everything's like perfect and rosy all the time, and you should be grateful for everything. You know what? Yeah, sometimes it just freaking sucks. And we need to become a little more honest and transparent and open about those things too, because otherwise you just kind of end up being like, Ted Lasso in season 2, season finale. Like, oh my God, like what? So if you watch that show, I'm sure you agree with me. My husband and I were like, he should have told Nate off, or he should have done something there. So, and I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but if you watch the show, I'm sure you'll understand what I'm talking about. But we do have to stand up for ourselves, and we do have to realize we're not alone. We do have to realize that, yep, sometimes mistakes are lessons, but sometimes the mistakes just frickin' suck. So here are some of mine. Yes, because 2021 was a big year of making some mistakes. And the majority of my mistakes actually center around marketing. Yep, marketing, and not trusting my own intuition. So this was my huge lesson from all of this, is to trust my own intuition in regards to what feels good, and listen to myself, and just own things. Own the fact that I love to be omnipresent. own the fact that I'm good at working, I'm good at repurposing, I'm very creative. And once you turn on that faucet of creativity, believe me, the thoughts just keep coming. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have all this content that I can share and not enough hours in the day. So that was the good thing that came out of it, is that I learned that I am a really, really great content creator. I have fine-tuned those skills. I can do it easily, quickly. I feel good doing it. And I have had to really let go of all that other noise that's out there on the internet with all these other coaches saying, you don't need to post every day, or you don't need to do that, or you need to do that. No, do what works for you. If they're saying that, well, that's fine. That's their marketing angle because they don't like to do it, right? It might not be in their human design. And that's totally fine. Good for them. But do what feels good for you. And if it doesn't feel good for you to post every day, then don't post every day. I'm not going to be that coach that tells you exactly what to do. It's going to be a learning process for you to figure out what feels good for you and to do that so you're in energetic alignment. I also made mistakes with hiring a team of VAs. Nothing against the VAs or the woman that runs the team. I actually really, really, really like them. But what I realized is because I'm good at creating content and because I have a vision, to have VAs, it doesn't make sense for me, right? So again, that's owning my own work ethic. It's owning my own creativity and not having to rely on someone else. So I think that having a team of VAs is really good if you don't like to do those things, right? So that's just understanding the difference there. Like if you don't like to post on social media, if you're struggling with creating content, if you are struggling with finding time in your day to do social media, then I would suggest looking at VAs. If you are someone that creates content easily, you have fun doing it, you love it, I would not recommend hiring VAs. I strongly believe in this, and that would be my recommendation. I also made mistakes with hiring a coach that didn't listen at all. She was a very old paradigm for sure. And that was a huge learning, a very expensive mistake and a very time-oriented mistake. I remember my husband hearing a Zoom call and he about died. He was like, oh my God, that's your coach? And I was like, yeah, it's pretty bad, right? He was like, it's really bad. He's like, I commend you so much for even speaking with that woman. And I'm like, I know. So that was a huge, huge learning. And I really didn't get much out of it except for one huge lesson. And that is to really make sure I'm a great listener, because I've always felt I was a good listener and very curious, but now I'm more consciously aware of it because this person didn't listen. And she gave me a lot of bad advice based on an old paradigm. And I should have listened to my own intuition and not followed her advice. But I thought to myself, well, I'm paying her and she's an expert and da 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 da. And wrong decision. So to me, for the most part, that was just a huge, huge, huge mistake. I also paid to be part of an advertising vehicle, like a marketing and advertising vehicle that brought me absolutely no business, not even like email signups. And then I checked with some of the other people involved in the same thing. None of us got a business lift from that vehicle. So be very careful out there with the services you're hiring, the vehicles you're paying for that you think is going to bring you extra business, likely because of how the nature of content is, with how much content creation there is out there and that you can access so many things. The world has just changed. And maybe it was good a couple years ago, this vehicle, but it certainly wasn't this year. So that was a huge miss, and in my opinion, an overpriced miss. And just something that I'm very aware of now. Like, be very aware of what you're paying for as far as marketing vehicles. Very, very, very aware. I actually was having a conversation with a fellow author this past week, and she has been part of a advertising vehicle in the podcast industry for 2 years, and it's blew my mind how much money it cost, like blew my mind. And she even said that she's likely not going to continue. And she said, basically, she's like, unless you have deep pockets and a lot of time on your hands, it's really not worth it anymore. So be careful of what you're signing up for, because you can do so much online yourself. Like, you can do your own podcast, you can post on Facebook, you can post on all the platforms, YouTube, Pinterest, medium.com, like all these things. Like, you can do these things. That is why a lot of these vehicles are struggling, is because it's hard to cut through the noise when you can just post on your own and it really doesn't cost you much. Buy Canva Pro. Libsyn's $20 a month if you want to have a podcast. Like, it doesn't take much to do your own content anymore. So you don't need to be paying for these marketing vehicles that really just don't help at all. And then the last thing, well, actually, there's 2 more things I want to talk about. So I'll say the last thing first. So the last thing was something I recently did that I'm going to write more about, but I'll just mention it briefly because I don't want this podcast to be super long, is I hired someone who's referring to herself as a lead generation expert. And I wasn't totally gung-ho when I spoke to her over Zoom. And I should have trusted my own gut and human design generator, like sacral yes or no, because it was just and my husband was like, give it a shot, try it. And so I did. And after 3 weeks, I ended up letting go of the contract because honestly, that didn't feel good for me. And she didn't really know all the things that she said she would do. Like, she presented herself as an expert and it truly wasn't the case. She was really just a VA, which is fine if you're a VA. I'm not ripping on VAs. I believe in them, as I said. Depending on what you need, depending on where you're at, what you like to do, you might want to hire a VA. But there's people out there online that are promoting themselves that really don't have the skill set. And then they're sharing testimonials and giving themselves credit to build their business, but it likely wasn't them that got that person to that level. You have to think about that. There's so many other aspects that come into play for someone's business to take off. It takes a while. And so for a lead generation expert to say, oh, this person worked with me and now they're making, $1 million a minute, like, think about that. Like, take a moment and think about that. Think about, like, the reality of what, is that for real? Really? No, there's so many things. There's the energetics, there's the mindset, there's the blocks, there's the actual tactical, there's the doing of the thing over time before you're given something. I mean, this goes way back. I mean, businesses take years to build. They do not happen overnight. So for someone to say that they started working with someone and then bam, they like made it big. No, it's just all the pieces have come into play at the right time. And yes, they can be a piece of it. That's fantastic. But be careful of what you're reading, and then be careful what you're signing up for, because that's just a huge piece of like what's going on out there. And so I gave this person a chance. It was a disappointing experience, but I learned a lot. And based on some other factors that were happening with our websites and different things like that, I was just like, this isn't working out. So I'm letting go of this too. And yeah, just another really amazing experience. And then the last thing I want to mention is I got sucked into a coaching program, one of those a group coaching program in the beginning of the year. And my lesson was to not buy programs where the lingo is fancy, swirly, and then your brain is assuming it's one thing, right? And it ends up being something completely different. So I started following a spiritual and business coach last year in 2020, and she kept talking about this one program, talking about it, and talking about this and that, and a lot of aspects of it in a roundabout way, but not really what the program was about. So my mistake and my lesson, and what I am never going to do as a coach in my programs, is that knowing that she wasn't really clear on what the program was about. So I will always be crystal clear with people. If you look at my sales page for the 6-week group program, I lay it out week by week. She did not do this. So I got caught up in my assumption of what the program was about based on what I was looking for, right? So that's on me. That's on me. So I joined the program. It cost me almost $3,000. No one-on-one coaching, the bonuses, no bonuses. It was just straight up these modules, and then like once a month a call, like a group call over Zoom once a month, and then these modules. So it was an okay package, but again, in my mind, I was thinking it was going to be this one thing, and it was not. And I got into it, and I was like, God, this is like nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And this is actually stuff I've already worked on. Like, she's behind me in terms of thought processes. Like, this is so a mistake. This is so a mistake. But again, my lesson is I will never be misleading for my clients. I will always be straight up. I will not pick swirly, fancy language that I have really no clue what it means. And I got caught up. My lesson, my learning. But now I've made a promise that I will always be straightforward and share with people what a program is about so they don't make the same mistake as I did, because I don't want someone to be disappointed. And yeah, a lot of these programs, they don't give a money back guarantee. They don't. It's like you bought it, you own it, you're in. So that was one of my other lessons too. So I hope that this podcast, again, my intention is for you to not feel so alone. If you have some things you're hindsighting yourself on, that you've kicked yourself on, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I spent that money. I can't believe I did this. You know, we all have things in our business as a business person. So even if you're someone who doesn't buy online coaching programs, you know, it's not something you're interested, but you're still a business owner, we all have those things. I've made lots of those mistakes, had those lessons, even before getting into this world of online coaching and buying into all these programs, right? So we all have things that we learn from, and it's okay to recognize that it was a mistake and then try to just get like a little lesson from it. You don't need to be all positive Pollyanna. It's okay. I think we need to humanize our lives a little bit more. Yep. Do you agree with me? And it's okay, but don't beat yourself up in the meantime. Just kind of like take it in a stride. Don't make it again. Learn from it and move forward. So take some time as you're thinking about your future of the things that you had happened to you, again, either this year, 2021, or even go back in time. So you just learn from them, make better choices, because we all have the power to make the right choices, but sometimes we just need like a little kick in the butt as we go through our lives. So I hope you like this podcast. I would love to hear from you. Again, my private Facebook group is called Beyond Basic, and I will put the link in the show notes. My 6-week group program, Beyond Basic Sales Success and Strategies, starts on 11/30. And please check out the sales page. I don't want this podcast to be super lengthy, but it is a very, very jam-packed program that has year-long support and bonuses. Bonuses are you get a pre-recorded course. That's the fundamentals of different mindset and energetics. It also has a private one-on-one coaching call with 2 vehicles of support after that call. You get to be on one of my podcasts to promote your business and get that experience and more content out there, and a human design review. So the bonuses alone are amazing and life-changing and transformative and are weaved into the weeks. So as you pull up the sales page and look at the week by week plan, you'll see how each of the bonuses are also weaved into the weeks, so they make sense as far as the development. So I am so excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for listening to this podcast. Please share. I appreciate that. And reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And Instagram is Melinda_Van Fleet. Until next time, I hope you crush it in sales. Thanks for listening.